Welcome to Freeform Radio on the Freeform Network. You can follow us on Facebook at Freeform Network. We're on Twitter under FFR Podcast. And remember to send your questions and suggestions at ffnquestions@gmail.com. We just did that special episode, so keep sending them. We love hearing from you guys. So this is Freeform Radio. I'm one of your many hosts. I'm Andy, and I have Daniel with us today.
Yes, sir. Back in the cut here.
And we have Noel.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
So we're back at it here. The whole crew is back at the FFR studios, and we're going to go to Danny. He made a big accomplishment this week in video game history, the talk of the town. You finally beat Red Dead Redemption, and how do you feel, Danny, making such a big accomplishment? Because I don't see no one talk about this game no more.
Yeah, people are not really talking about it anymore. I know they've been releasing like updates to the online portion of it because it has a single player. That's the main thing, but then there's also an online community where you get your little posses together and go around and just cause havoc and rob stuff and try to take over other gangs. But yeah, like Andy was mentioning, I finally beat the last single player story beat that was available. My main character finally saw an end to his story, and then at the very end there's an epilogue where you get to play the character from Red Dead Redemption Part 1, and you get to play the start of that story because for people that don't know, Red Dead Redemption 2 is actually a prequel to Red Dead Part 1. So at the very end of this Part 2, you get to play like the beginning of Red Dead 1, and you get to see how the story leads into that. So,
well, I just learned something. It's a prequel to the PS2 game?
Right. Yeah, the Red Dead Redemption 2 is a prequel story-wise to Red Dead 1. It takes place before that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Red Dead Redemption 1, it follows the character, I believe his name's John Marston, and it shows him after his gang split up, and him trying to kind of find his way through the Old West, because a lot of the Old West is gone, more civilized people are moving in. And so it's him trying to fit into this world where it's not so much gunslinging anymore. And Part 1 or Part 2 that I just beat, it's the prequel. So the gang is still together. They're already formed. So John Marston is part of the gang. But the character that you play mostly is another character completely. And like I mentioned, after his story is completed and you finally finish his part, then you come and start playing at the very end of this story, you start playing the start of Red Dead 1.
The infamous snow scene or whatever.
Right. It ends on in a snowy plain. At least the very end of the story for John Marston. And then that's where the epilogue finally finishes. And then, you can still run around and go do whatever you want to do. In the game, you can still do all the side missions, whatever you didn't beat. But, to me, it's fun, but it's not as fun. I really got attached to the first character, Arthur Morgan. And now that, his story kind of ended and you're kind of stuck with John Marston, even though John Marston is a good character too. And I really, was attached to him from Red Dead 1. It's just different. So, but it does feel like a huge accomplishment. I got this game, I really don't buy games right when they're released. I'm kind of cheap that way, and I like to wait until they get in the used bin. And there's a couple bucks knocked off of it, but, this was one of those games that I'm like, I really want it. I really don't typically buy new games, but this is one that I really want to get in at the very start. So I bought it launch day, which was in October, and I barely beat it now. So It took me a few months for sure to beat all the single player stuff, but I'm finally done. And I kind of dabbled a little in the online, but it's not really my cup of tea. I don't like playing with other people. I just like to play by myself.
Yeah,
Insert joke here.
You've always been a single player kind of guy.
Right. I've never got into the online community, even though my son kind of likes it. You know, he likes doing the Fortnite and Minecraft and all the other stuff online. I can't really get into it, man. I'll play with him on occasion online, but it's just not my cup of tea. Maybe I got beat too many times in Madden by some young teenager punk, you know, trying to one up me while I'm trying to air it out, and the kid doesn't let me. So it kind of bittered me, and I don't like playing online anymore.
So going back to the story mode, how many does it record the hours like some of the other games? Like how many hours you commit to that? Because it's we bought it in October. I mean, and everybody said how massive the world. I mean, every Rockstar game is like so massive, the world, open world stuff. So what kind of time are you looking at? Do you know?
Yeah, I tried to look for a clock because I know that I played it. I don't get to play that much gaming. I do game a lot, but I don't get to play that much. So I try to find a clock as far as my overall runtime with the game, but I couldn't find anything. But I did get an email from PlayStation that gives me a summary of my 2008. So it did give me some stats as far as everything that I accomplished in 2018, not including the stuff that I did in, after that, after January. And I had already it was like 80 hours logged in to Red Dead. So that was from October, November, December. So for those 3 months, I already had 2 working shifts on that game. And like I mentioned, I really don't get to play that often. I usually only play during the weekend, or maybe early in the morning, like if I get up early and I'm ready for work and there's really nothing else to do, I already ate breakfast and whatnot. So I'm just kind of chilling, waiting to leave to work, and I don't want to get there too early. I might game for 10 minutes. But other than that, it's usually just on the weekends. So yeah, man, a huge amount of time went into this game, but it was worth it, man. It wasn't until just the very last week or two that it started becoming all right, come on, don't give me this Lord of the Rings ending where there's an ending to an ending and then another ending, and I'm just all right, come on, just wrap this thing up. I could feel the ending here. Just give it to me already.
So the ending was satisfying enough for your commitment of hours?
Yeah, man. For me, yes. Especially because I played the character as a good guy. There's a morality system in the game, so depending on what you do, if you rob people, if you kill innocent people, if you help people out that are in need, the game records that, and it gives you a good character status or a bad character status, and your ending depends on it. So depending on what kind of character or how you played it, you get a different ending. So it was one of the cool things that when I got my very last ending, even though it was sort of sad, the ending, it was satisfying, and it left me yeah, that's really the way this thing should end. And then just by curiosity, I checked YouTube for some of the other endings. And yeah, by far, I'm glad I got this ending versus the other 3. I believe there's a total of 4. The other 3 were just terrible, and I'm just nah, I wouldn't have been happy if the game ended those other ways.
What would you give the game a rating out of 10 overall?
It would be close to a 10. I mean, 9.8.
Wow.
I would almost give it a 10, but there are a few things that, kind of bug you at times, the way the controls work. You gotta be right in that special area to be able to get that prompt. So sometimes that was aggravating.
Okay.
And then just the daily, maintenance that you had to do. I think I kind of mentioned it when I first got it, cleaning your horse, taking a shower, eating, The camp is useless. So if they're getting hungry, they'll start complaining and be like, man, when are you going to bring food, Morgan? We're starving over here. And it's just like, well, I'm doing all this stuff. Why don't you go hunt or go do this stuff instead of waiting for me to bring a deer carcass so you guys can eat? So, stuff like that got kind of, tedious at times, and you get kind of in the groove of, doing missions, and then all of a sudden you got to go back to, I got to clean my horse. I got to eat. I got to take a shower. I got to go to sleep because my character is getting tired. And, there's a lot of little stuff like that, which, at first was sort of cool because, it made it seem real. But, towards the end, it just became a little tedious, and I wish there was a way to kind of churn off that, simulation style game and be a little more arcadey just so I can power through the story.
Right, I hear you on that. Yeah. No, that sounds good, man. I mean, aside from those little things, it looks like it's an amazing game.
Right. I mean, I love cowboy settings. I love spaghetti western movies. So, Red Dead Part 1 was something that I really cared for. And, I was really happy that Red Dead 2 came out, and it definitely lived up to everything that I wanted. Will I ever go back to it? I'm not really sure. I guess maybe if I get that itch again, I might go into the Wild Wild West again and just kind of maybe play it as a bad guy and kind of just go around, killing and shooting everybody, since I played it as a good guy the first run through. But speaking of maybe some more bad news, man, that wasn't as good as this game was, is that I was reading, I don't know if you guys heard, but the drive-through Cascade is closing down, man. I guess sucks. Yeah, man, they were open for 58 years, and now they shut them down, man. It's kind of sad because I had been there a few times and I really enjoyed it myself.
Yeah, the last couple of years, like the last 5-6 years, it's a pretty good bang for your buck, and the experience alone, because there's not too many of those places like that left, was it was a good experience, and it kind of sucks that they're shutting down. I mean, I don't know how far you read into the details, Danny.
I read something like the landlord that was renting the lot to them just decided that they wanted to leave the lot open in case there was other opportunities to be able to, rent it or sell it. And while the drive-in was there, it would be less enticing for these other companies to maybe come in there.
I'm kind of surprised it's lasted as long as it has. I mean, that's 58 years. That's since the 60s, which I guess back in the day, I mean, drive-ins were more popular, definitely more used. But you got Netflix now. I mean, that's the reason Blockbuster went under. So for the drive-in to still have stood the test of time up to this point, man, props to them.
Well, yeah, I mean, at its peak, I read somewhere they had like 9,000 drive-ins, and I think in Illinois, northern Illinois, where we kind of live, it's like there was 2 left, and now there's just 1.
Right, man. I would try to go out there at least once a year. I get what you're saying, Noel, that, with all these streaming medias, it's, right before we started recording, I had just watched an episode on my Netflix. So it's, it's become more easier to do streaming, movies and whatnot. But the drive-in is more of an experience. You go and you're just like, let me get this, really special experience, once or twice a year. And it gave you this is something cool. It's cool to have experienced this, to be able to tell your kids, your grandkids, we used to go to drive-in. They'll be like, hey, Grandpa, there was drive-ins. And it's just like, it's a relic from the old times that, sadly is leaving us.
Yeah, I mean, really, it seems like it costs more to operate than they probably bring in annually. So that's more than likely the reason why they're shutting down.
What I read is, I mean, they still had a lot of business. It's just, I think Danny mentioned that the owner, they don't own the land, and it was leased, and they had a yearly lease. And this year he kind of mentioned when the season ended that like he wasn't sure who was going to come back because the family that owns it is trying to sell the property. But every time I would go, it was crazy packed with like cars. I mean, it was a pretty big drive-in too. It wasn't like a little one, but I mean, the parking lot was massive.
How many cars would you say would be around there?
Yeah, I would say I think they could fit like 1,000 cars, dude. I mean, it was massive.
Whoa, that's bigger than I thought it was. Wow.
Right. I don't know about 1,000, but it was definitely a couple hundred for sure. It probably 1,000 people for sure, but probably in the hundreds as far as cars. But it was an everything experience. I mean, they had the where you could link into your FM radio so you can listen to the movie in your car. They had a grilling section for picnicking where you can grill out, and then they had like a central hub where you can go for popcorn food, snack food, nachos, all that typically movie food. So it was a great experience, and it was the kind of thing where you could even bring your own food. There was once that we took Chinese food, and we just took a bunch of Chinese containers. We put out our lawn chairs, put out a little table, and we just ate. One time we brought subs from Ozzy's, and we just ate that. And there was times that we took a whole pizza, and we just put out a pizza, and then just pigged out on the pizza while we're sitting outside the car and just watching the movie. So it was definitely an experience and something different, and kind of sad to see it go.
Real quick, I just Googled it. It could fit over 1,200 cars.
Wow. So yeah,
it's massive.
Wow. I know it went pretty far back, and maybe it seemed smaller to me because I usually tend to stay in the front because I had a car, and I know they made the trucks go towards the back, so maybe I never really saw the extent of the lot. But yeah, it was definitely an experience, and it was always popping, man. There was always a lot of people filling it up, and it's it's a relic that's now dying, and it's not something that's going to keep going, unfortunately. But maybe things that are going to replace it are some streaming media. Kind of like you, Andy. You got this new Hulu subscription. Maybe you're one of the reasons why this drive-thru finally closed down.
Man, all I know is I got that Hulu. I'd rather go to the drive-in because they only played like crappy commercials in the beginning. Like, let's go out to the movies, and then you get like a cheap hot dog. But so yeah, I mean, I got Hulu. I don't know if you got it, Noel, and I think Danny, you mentioned you have it or you had it at one time.
Right, I currently have it. I got a promotional thing for a couple more months.
I've had Amazon Prime, but I've never had Hulu.
So yeah, one of the reasons that I wanted to try Hulu, I still have cable, but our deal's up with my contract with the cable company ends in I believe like in June or July. And when I moved out here, I was trying to convince my wife to cut the cord, and she was kind of hesitant. But now this year we kind of talked about it, and she was interested, like, yeah, maybe we should cut the cord. And I'm like, all right. And I told her there's stuff we could watch, like anytime, like your current TV shows, without going to like some of the crappy streaming sites, or without having to deal with a lot of crap. So I signed up to Hulu just to try it out, so she could try it out. And overall, I think it's pretty cool. Just the thing that sucks, I thought the option that I got was without commercials. It's with commercials, and I'm like, the commercials are like repetitive, and they're like long as hell. So that's the only thing that's bad about it.
Oh yeah, no, that's always bugged me, because if the commercials come right after like a really important part that like gets you emotional or gets you really like drawn in, and then you see a commercial with some guy just like flipping burgers, grilling out or something, it's just like it totally loses the feeling, the vibe.
Right, man. To me, I don't know. I grew up with, without too much subscription service. I just recently got Amazon Prime the last year or two. So I was still kind of used to commercials. So now that I do have Hulu, to me, it's just normal. It's not something really obtuse that, kind of stands out to you and you're like, man, this sucks. Especially because you get this cool little timer. I know you don't like it, Andy, but you get a little timer in the corner telling you that this commercial is 30 seconds. So you get kind of a feel like, all right, this is going to be over fairly quickly. Or you'll see the timer, give you like a minute and a half, and you're like, all right, I got enough time to go to the bathroom and come back before this commercial's done. So it's not bad. To me, I've lived all my life with commercials, so to me it's the same thing.
Damn your positive attitude, Danny. Fuck that, man. You pay for a service. Commercials are only meant to be seen on TV, like live TV, not when you pay. Like Netflix doesn't have it, Amazon doesn't have it. Shit. Even the WWE Network, I think they have like one commercial per show, and it's in the beginning. And this thing is just like constant. It's fucking annoying, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But the cool thing is they do have a lot of the shows.
It'd be nice if they had a feature. Either you pay a little bit more each month and you get no commercials, or show all the commercials in the beginning or at the end, and then have the time in between just be the show or the movie or whatever.
Well, they do advertise a commercial-free option, and I thought that's what I was getting, but it wasn't, and then I looked into it. It's like some crazy amount, and then I looked into the details. They're contractually obligated to have commercials for certain shows. So I'm like, well, that defeats the whole purpose of getting of the commercial free plan,
Right, but even Amazon Prime has commercials. Very few of them, but they do have commercials. But
have you seen a commercial on Amazon Prime? I've never seen it.
They usually play it at the very start. It's like a quick, like a half hour. It's usually like a sizzle reel of their movies that they got coming out, their original episodes. So I think it's by Amazon Prime. It's like an Amazon Prime specific commercial.
Oh.
But it's really quick, so it's like when you click the movie, you get a quick sizzle reel for like 30 seconds, kind of showing you like, Man on the High Tower, and then whatever other movies that they got coming out that are theirs. And then your episode or movie or whatever starts. But I don't think it's after everyone. It's like after, 6 or 7 videos that you watch, you'll get that little quick sizzle reel.
Yeah, I think I binge watch 2 seasons of South Park, the last 2 seasons. And I did notice I binge watched it more, there would be less and less commercials. Or I don't know if it was just for that show because it's a half-hour show. But I noticed early on when I watched the first couple episodes, there was just like normal interval of the commercials. But after like the hour and a half, the final episode, it would be like just like 1 or 2 commercials and not like 3 or 4. I don't know if you ever noticed that when you had that, Dan, where you binge watched any type of show.
Like I mentioned, it was kind of in the background to me that I didn't really notice like, oh my God, another commercial, and oh my God, another commercial. It was just like normal, because, when I watch, a Sox game or whatever, there's commercials, and I'm used to, all right, they're in between innings and it's my turn to go get some water or do whatever I got to do. And I got to wait this, minute and a half or 2 minutes, whatever, however long this commercial break is.
Well, overall, the content was pretty good. The movies were kind of lacking, but you were really getting it for the movies. But overall, I like some of the shows they had. I did like one of their original shows that I watched was The Path. It's about like a cult, about surrounding a cult up in like New Hampshire or something. It has the guy from Breaking Bad, the bitch guy. I don't know I can't remember his name.
Was his name Jesse in the movie?
Yeah, I think you're right. It was Jesse. And that one's been pretty good. It kind of sucks. It only lasted 3 seasons. It got canceled after the 3rd season. So I'm like 3/4 of the way of the first season, and it's been pretty good.
Yeah, it's a shame when you get like a really good show and then they cancel it after only a couple of seasons. it's a shame because like they could build up so much more if they kept it going.
Right. I've noticed that Hulu's got a lot of old TV shows. Like I've been watching, like Perfect Strangers, Wonder Years, Seinfeld, like you mentioned, South Park, Family Guy. It's got a bunch of like old stuff that you could just, if you really wanted to, you could binge watch Family Guy for, probably a year with how many episodes they got on there.
Yeah, I mean, has a lot of current shows, a lot of older ones too. Like they had like I Love Lucy,
right?
They had a lot of the Star Trek shows, but they're on other streaming sites or subscriptions. Like I think it's on Amazon and Netflix. But like I said, the thing I liked, it wasn't too bad. I'm not impressed by it, but I mean, it overall did do a solid job. And I don't know if I would recommend it to anybody. Like, I don't know how the live TV option works. I was kind of reading stuff about it, but I don't know. But overall, it's at its peak, it might be an average streaming subscription app option.
I think it's a good entry point because it's got a cheap price base, right?
Yeah, they hook people. The overall pricing, I think it's less than Netflix.
Right.
So it's good, but again, they have what hooked me was like, okay, they have network stuff, and I want to see some network shows like that my wife would like, and I like a couple of the network shows, but it's slim pickings. The thing I did get the HBO option add-on premium thing, and it has some cool stuff on there. Like they're pretty good with their documentaries, so it's pretty good.
What would you say is the price range for that?
I thought it was like $6 or something a month.
Yeah, it's like I think entry point's like $6, and if you add like HBO or Showtime, they call it a premium add-on. It's a little bit more money. I think it's like another $6 or $7 or something.
Right.
It's a good deal.
Don't hold me to that internet, because I'm still doing like an introductory type of thing.
Okay.
All right. But so like I said, it kind of lacked some of the movies. It did have some movies because I was interested in watching. I saw Straight Outta Compton, and I was searching to see if it had it on there, but it didn't have it. So I popped up my good old Blu-ray. And then I popped that in, and then I don't know when's the last time anybody watched the Blu-ray. It fucking thing had to do with some updates, and then it even loaded some. It has the Blue Disc Live option, so it took some time to load up trailers for new movies coming out like this year. So It has like this live option.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I still watch Blu-rays every now and then, and yeah, it's pretty cool, man. It connects you online, even though I don't really use that function too much, but yeah, it's kind of cool that you get to jump online and get some stats of the characters that are in the movie and whatever other special things the movie company put together for that particular Blu-ray.
So. Yeah, I mean, the Blu-ray has a lot of options, so I popped it in, and I've seen it before, but I haven't seen it since I bought the Blu-ray, so I just felt like seeing it, and overall, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw it, I think it's an excellent movie. There's some facts that I feel like they got mixed up, what I know of that time, because I mean, to me, it's like a nostalgic, like, wow factor because I'm watching all this stuff and I'm like, I remember a lot of the shit that was going on when live, because I was like in my teens, like from NWA to the Death Row Record stuff to them getting Tupac and Dre and all this leaving. So it was pretty, to me, it's like a flashback, man. But overall, the movie was pretty solid. I know at the time when it came out, people were talking about they should have won Oscars. And, and I don't know if it's Oscar worthy, but it did, the movie was pretty good and the story was, it was flawlessly all put together and the time constraint that they were under.
Yeah, I really liked the cast they got for the movie. I think they all played their role perfectly. I kind of believed it. I believed each character was that person, and back in that time period, Dre, Ice Cube, Eazy-E. It was really believable, and it was really interesting to see like how they progressed and how they came together, but also how they got separated through just the drama that exists in the rap industry.
Yeah, like I said, Dre from his early beginnings, and there's some comments in the movies. Like I read some books on about Dre and like Death Row. The only thing I found interesting is how when Eazy-E I don't think they were talking about redoing an NWA. What I recall, they were talking about I know that in the scene, there's a scene in the movie where Eazy-E sees Ice Cube at a club in New York. I know that happened because Ice Cube talked about it. He talked to Eazy a long time before he even got sick. In the movie, they make it sound like they portray it as he's already like fucking sick and coughing and all this stuff. And he did. I remember Cube doing an interview saying like, if we get Dre, I'm down for it. He just didn't want Jerry Heller up in it, being a part of that when they get back together. And then in the movie, it's like, oh, it happens like right away. He's calling them and stuff. Like, to me, I know that didn't happen. It took like another year and a half, I think, before he started talking to Dre again about doing a possible NWA reunion. But the movie just like fast tracks it, try to, to fit it all before Eazy-E gets sick and then he dies.
Right. I enjoyed it. I thought Straight Outta Compton, I enjoyed it more than I thought I was. Like you said, it's kind of nostalgia because I grew up in that era when they were doing concerts. I went to a Dr. Dre concert. I went to an Ice Cube concert. So I got to see a lot of that stuff that was depicted in the movie. So it kind of hit that nostalgia tip, and it was a pretty well put together movie. I enjoyed it myself for sure, and it gave me some insight, even though I knew a lot of the turmoil that they had in the group. It was definitely a different aspect of it. I don't know how real it is, because you know how they like to kind of work it up a little bit just for the movie to make it more entertaining. But if it was true, man, it was definitely a different side of the story.
Yeah, like I said, I highly recommend it. I call it the trilogy of movies that I watched: Straight Outta Compton, The All Eyes on Me, and The Notorious. It's all within that time frame, and to me, it's must watch if you grew up in the '90s. Listening to this music and like these movies take you back to a trip. All those like urban movies like Juice and like Gridlocked and so forth. And I know, Noel, you watch some of these urban classics. What do you think? I know you mentioned you watch I think Gridlocked. That's what Tupac is up in that movie, and I think Tim Roth. What are your, did you like that movie? Or does it still hold up today?
I did grow up watching a bunch of those different classics. Like my brother, Daniel already said he grew up during that time period. So him and Saul, my other brother, they were really big on like all different kinds of music, including rap. And so I got exposed to all this stuff really young. It was really good for me, like, to learn about it. And so I grew up on watching like Higher Learning, House Party, Above the Rim. I watched Juice. Gridlock, I'm sorry, man, it doesn't come to mind right now, but I've seen so many, it's like it's hard to remember every single one. I'm sure if I like look up a trailer, I'm pretty sure I'll remember it, because I know there's a few with Tupac that I saw. I saw one with him and Janet Jackson.
That's like Poetic Justice.
Yeah, Poetic Justice. I've seen a bunch of those, man, and it's a great time watching them all over again. I actually just saw Above the Rim like a couple weeks ago. Man, nostalgic movie if I ever had one. It's got the guy from Cool Runnings in it, Leon.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, what's that guy? I can't think of that guy's name right now.
Yeah, I can't remember.
His name's Leon. He just goes by that I mean, his real name is Leon Robinson, but everyone just calls him Leon. And he plays like the main character who he went through a traumatic time as a kid, and he ended up leaving, but he came back for his mother's funeral. And his brother in the movie is Tupac, who grew up pretty much alone, taking care of his mom before she died, and he grew up in the streets dealing drugs and becoming a big boss in the gang world. And so Leon was a big he was set up to go on a scholarship as a basketball player. And so he came back, and they gave him a job as a security guard to guard like the school while they had like basketball games and stuff. It's a basketball themed movie. And so it got to another young kid that's up and coming that reminds Leon of how he used to be as a kid. And it's like a mentor to mentoree relationship that develops through like hardship in the movie. It's got Bernie Mac. It's got Tupac, like I said. It's even got one of the Wayans brothers, Marlon Wayans. It's got some good characters in there if you guys never seen that one.
All I remember from that movie is Tupac had a razor blade in his mouth in
yep.
the Wayans brothers in one of the Wayans brothers, and like
That's all I remember. Oh, and it's got Chicago native Wood Harris. I don't know if you guys remember. Yeah. Remember the Titans? Mm-hmm. Yep. So he's in that too. It's a good movie, man. I definitely recommend it. One of my favorite all-time movies. And then I also watched Higher Learning again. Have you guys ever seen that one?
Yeah, we saw that.
With Ice Cube.
I saw that in the theater. I don't know if you remember, Danny.
I can't remember if we watched it together, but yeah.
I remember watching it.
That was at Hillside?
At the Hillside Theater, yeah.
Right, and that balcony seating that they had.
Yeah, it's a classic, man. That movie with the racial stuff, even back then to now, it's still like, it's kind of relevant, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's from the guy that made from Boys in the Hood. You know, he's made a lot of movies. Four Brothers, made Baby Boy. It's
Poetic Justice.
Yeah,
and I think he directed one of the Fast and the Furious movies.
And it's just got a great cast, man. Everybody went on to have like successful careers after this movie. Omar Epps, Christy Swanson, Michael Rappaport, Jennifer Connelly, Ice Cube. You got Tyra Banks in here, Cole Hauser, Lawrence Fishburne, Regina King. She just won an Oscar. You got even Busta Rhymes was in this motherfucker, dude. So yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's sad too, man. The ending, I was like, it hit me hard. I was like, wow, dude, it's incredible. But on a lighter note, one of my other favorite ones, comedies, is House Party. I just saw that. It's at the similar time frame a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you guys remember that one. House Party.
It's a trilogy, man.
Hell yeah, dude. I still haven't seen the second and third yet. I'm gonna plan to watch that in the next couple of days.
The second one during college.
Yeah. That Frodo, man, Christopher Reeve, dude, Jesus Christ.
I think he cuts it for the second one, I think, if I remember correctly.
I thought he did like Dreads or something, right?
No, was it that one? He did another one where he's in high school with... It wasn't the House Party, it was... They're like in school or something. It's another classic. I forget the name. It was always on cable when I was growing up.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, no, it's one of those good classics, man. You got Christopher Martin, you got Martin Lawrence, you got his start right there. I think that was his first ever movie, actually, back in 1990.
The movie I'm talking about is Class Act.
Class Act, okay.
That's another Kid and Play movie. That's where he gets that fro thing chopped off.
Oh, shit. Nah, that's definitely classic. Yeah, no, I've just been watching a bunch of movies lately that was on the list. So I'm just knocking them all down now. But I've also been watching some foreign films. Now I know you guys have heard of like the Jackie Chan movies, right? Like Drunken Master, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Super Cop and all that. So I watched Rumble in the Bronx, but I watched it. I looked for a specific version of this one. I wanted the one that had the original Chinese dialogue, like the dubs of Chinese and the subs of English. So cause like, I don't know about you guys, but I get a better satisfaction out of a movie when I watch it in its native language. and I just subtitled it English. No matter what movie it is, to be honest, even if it's in the English movie, I'll subtitle it in English so I don't miss anything if somebody said it kind of quietly or whatever. And to me, it's just more authentic. And if you watch the difference, like if you watch both movies, or with English dub and the Chinese Cantonese dub, actually is what it was, dude, it's like night and day. It just seems so much more authentic. Jackie Chan is talking with more emotion, and it just sounds easier to understand versus his heavy accent on the English during the dub, you know?
Why do you think you get that feeling? You just feel like you understand the movie better, even though you don't understand the language?
Yeah, I feel the emotion more. The acting is better. When you listen to the English dubs, it's literally another actor. Sometimes it's the same actor just re-recording it, but sometimes it's another American actor, for example, recording over the Chinese person's voice. And it just sounds like the timing is off, like the tone is off, the vibe of the scene is off. It doesn't seem to flow as smoothly. And when I watched Jackie Chan speaking Cantonese during the movie, it all flowed like seamlessly. It seemed like I could believe it better. I don't know how else to explain it, but I watch a lot of Japanese shows too, anime and stuff, so I've already gotten used to the whole sub and listening to the native voice routine.
I don't know. I don't think I could be able to. It kind of would trip me out, to be honest with you. I'd rather watch that crappy English dub. I think I would have a better understanding of it.
Yeah, I don't think I could read fast enough. That'd be my problem. Is that a lot of it would go over my head because the text would just scroll by too quick.
I've heard that argument before, but you just need practice ultimately, and if it takes time, but usually the subs will be there for a few seconds. They won't be that quick. It's gotten to the point where the technology has gotten so good that subs is it just goes with the flow of it. I actually saw a Norwegian movie the other day. It took me forever to find the subs, and it's in Norwegian. There's no other language. There's no English dub for this one, and I really wanted to see it. It was about an earthquake in Norway, kind of like one of those doomsday movies, like 2012 or Armageddon kind of thing. And so I wanted to see this one about a massive earthquake happening in Norway, and I found various subs, but none of them matched the time, right? Like, it went too quick or it went too slow, and I finally found the right one that lined up with the voice, and I was able to follow it right after that. It was a great movie. The Quake. I recommend it if you get a chance.
Well, what led you to search out this movie? This being an international film. What, you just saw a trailer one day or something, or?
No, there's this website I go to kind of see what's new and exciting. And I'll see movies from all different nations, like Indian movies, Turkish movies, Norwegian. Now I don't download them all, I don't watch them all, but that one stuck out to me because I was kind of in the mood for something like that. It dealt with a man who initially saved a group of people from a natural disaster, but he wasn't able to save everybody, so he was still a little traumatized from all the people that died. And everybody thought he was crazy because he kept saying that this is not the only time it's going to happen. It's going to get worse. And nobody believed him until it actually happened. And then the story is about him trying to save his family. And, it's a really, it's kind of a tearjerker at some points, man. If you get a chance to watch it, it's, you don't really see too many Norwegian films doing successful, but this one was one of them.
Why? So it's they're picking up after the earthquake, or because you said he couldn't save people?
So it happened in a certain area. I can't remember the city, but it wasn't the most populous city, but it was still pretty populated. Let's say it's not like New York status, but it's maybe San Antonio status or something like that, right? And he saved a lot of people there. He evacuated his family that first time, but now they're in the capital of Norway, which is Oslo. And Oslo is it's a coastal town, city. So it's surrounded by a lot of water. So there's threat of tsunamis. There's threat of the earthquake, literally crumbling the whole city to the ground into the water. And that's kind of, I don't want to give away any spoilers here, but that's kind of what's going to happen. and he's trying to prove it, but it's so difficult to prove what's going to happen in the future, and nobody wants to believe him, except when certain things start happening, like one of his colleagues who's in the same industry, like geological surveys, he ends up dying in the tunnel because it collapsed, and people try to give excuses for it. Oh, it's a tunnel that's weak, that's, et cetera. But he actually starts to kind of put the dots together, and he presents it to one of the, like, I guess you could say higher ups, like a defense of the city, like one of those people in charge of evacuations, like emergency ones. And ultimately it's a little bit too late. So the city gets struck with a 6 or 7.0 earthquake, and it just devastates the entire city. Thousands die, and he's trapped in a building trying to save his wife, who works at the top floor of this like Sears Tower-like building. And it's a lot of details, man. It's a long movie. It's about 2 hours. So it's going to be hard to really go into too much detail, but the Quake, I recommend it to you guys. It's worth watching.
You gotta check it out, man.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. You definitely don't want to go there for any kind of vacations or even any kind of honeymoons, which brings up our article of the week.
Yes. So we have this article here, and let me bring it up right now for you guys. The title is Newlyweds Are Now Going on Separate Honeymoons. This is a New York Post article, and it kind of goes into the details about how this new generation doesn't go on honeymoons together anymore. They're actually doing honeymoons separately. It says the honeymoon is over. Apparently couples are no longer celebrating their first days of wedded bliss, watching sunsets in the Caribbean or sightseeing in Paris. Instead, according to the New York Times, they're booking separate solo vacations or trendy unimoons. Yes, that's a term now, unimoons.
Yeah, I had to ask Alana, I'm like, what the hell is a unimoon? I'm like, Jesus.
Yep, research says 1 in 4 Americans report they actually get more out of travel when doing it alone. What do you guys think about all this?
That's a weakness.
That's a bold statement to say Americans get more out of traveling when they're alone. So Danny says it's weakness to deal with your spouse. Like, I think they just don't even want to be confrontational and just say, let's go do this. Like, no, I already have this day planned out. We're going to do all this other shit. And then one person's like, okay.
Yeah, to me, it's like, man, I don't know. Maybe this generation thinks of marriage differently. But to me, marriage is the union. It's the, one is this ingredient, the other one's this ingredient, and you're going to make a new dish together. It's the melding and blending of both people to make one new, different thing together. So everything is together, man. I mean, it's very rare. Not to say that we don't spend, independent time alone, when I want to go do my own thing or Alana wants to go do something. But for something this big, like vacations, man, that's not something that you, or at least in my eyes, do separately. It doesn't sound normal to me.
I agree. The article goes into detail about an example of which, like this actually happened. It talks about a groom who wanted to go to France and watch a soccer game with his buddies, and then the bride didn't. So she literally visited a friend in Toronto, Canada, while the new husband went to Europe with his bros and watched the sports game. So
I thought it was funny that it said the bride went with a friend, but didn't specify if it was a guy friend or a girlfriend.
Does that really matter, Danny? Come on.
Yeah, of course it does, man.
Today's kids are younger people are very open, and you could be friends with anything or anyone or anybody. Then.
Oh yeah, I guess I'm being insensitive. I'm trying to label this person,
why are
something.
You labeling this friend to be something that they're not?
I know.
But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, when I was getting married, the only thing I was looking forward to, there was two things. Actually, the day of the wedding, the whole build up to it's stressful. We talked about it on another podcast. Getting the wedding and then consummating the marriage and then going on a honeymoon. I mean, that's your payoff, the honeymoon. That's how I felt.
That was your Super Bowl, Andy?
That was my Super Bowl, because I was gonna get pampered, I was gonna get taken care of, and my wife was gonna be there, and there was gonna be a lot of consummation of the marriage going on in that honeymoon. But I mean, granted, today, if you look at the article, they do talk about a lot of people who get married, before they get married, they're already living together. They already done joint vacations. So to them, they're not putting an emphasis on the marriage or the honeymoon, because they're like, we already done all this shit. Like, why do I gotta go? We just got married, like, because to me, I feel like they're downplaying the marriage. So that means the honeymoon is no valid.
I mean, that's a good point, because back in the day, I mean, people wouldn't live together before marriage. So the honeymoon was like the trial thing, like, oh, let's see how it goes. Now we're going to be living together for this trial period. If it goes well, obviously you stay together. If it doesn't, then you have the option of like an annulment.
No, man, these people living in sin, or what did they call it in Catholic school, Andy?
That's what I was going to say. Where I come from, it's called living in sin.
What was the Spanish word for it?
Unión Libre.
Unión Libre.
Unión Libre. So, like, that means, like, you're together, but you're not together in the eyes of God. You're not married. It's like, so you're sinning. And then you have to, when I went to my catecismo, my Catholicism class, when you were doing your first communion and your confirmation, you had to go talk to a priest. Or before you get married, you had to go talk to a priest to get like a special forgiveness thing before you get married, because you're technically sinning your whole way up till you get married. So you had to do like a special confessional, I think, with the priest.
Sounds a little technical for me. I'm not in that
it's
circle
very
anymore,
technical.
Andy.
That's the things you got to do to get into heaven. But going back to the article, it's like, again, today's kids. I mean, I hate to sound like an old man. They're downplaying the role of marriage because you see what they're doing to it. So again, the byproduct of that's the honeymoon, because you're already, living together. You've gone on joint vacations. So to them, the honeymoon is just like, it's another trip. I'm super busy. Let's just take separate vacations, which we know people at work who take separate vacations from their wife or their partners. And me and Danny always like, man, I don't know if I'm capable of doing that, taking a separate vacation.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Let's consider taking away the religious aspect of it, though. The benefit of a honeymoon. Let's say you're just getting married through the court, or you're doing like a ceremonial, like spiritual thing, but not necessarily religious thing. Like, weddings can be pretty stressful, you have to deal with the family, your friends, any kind of mix-ups that happen, and that's kind of what it goes into detail in the article as well. You have embarrassing friends who sometimes get a little bit drunk and just start doing crazy shit. So the time after the wedding is really meant to kind of unwind and be stress relieving for the couple that just got married.
Right. And it is a part of that, that time when you drive away from the wedding hall and you're going to the honeymoon or to the hotel or whatever your situation is. Like for me and Alana, we decided to spend a little bit more on our wedding. And so our honeymoon got kind of shrunk a little bit, and we just found a nice hotel, locally, and we ended up staying there for the weekend. And it was, one of those hotels that do massages and all that good stuff. Is like a spa. And it was really nice, man. It was a cool time to chill, especially after, like Andy said, the work up to the wedding is sometimes stressful. So to get there and get that payoff and just, just kind of put the wedding behind you, and now it's just time to enjoy each other's company and just kind of chill and relax.
Well, yeah, I mean, even the author of the article writes, I know not everyone can afford a 2-week, I don't even know what this word is, sojourn to the tropics. But her and her husband spent their honeymoon in a hotel room in Pittsburgh. And she goes, yeah, it couldn't have been better. It couldn't have been better if it were in Paris. So she's saying like that's what we needed, and we just stayed in that hotel room because they're enjoying each other's company. They're married and celebrating married life, and so I don't know. I mean, you not being married, Noel, is there something you're gonna do, a honeymoon, or you feel like you want to go with your wife on a special honeymoon, or put all the emphasis on the honeymoon and nothing on the wedding?
That's a good question, man. I guess we'll have to wait until that time comes, but if anything, I would be willing to compromise and do something together. I think that's the whole point of marriage is compromise, right? Like obviously there's no two persons alike, so everybody's going to have one idea and the other is going to have another idea. But the whole point of, to me, marriage is that you're combining two special people, making them one incredibly special person. And so we have two separate ideas. Well, let's just find a way to make it work together. If, for example, the other case, the woman wanted to go to Toronto, the other guy wanted to go to Europe. Well, why can't we do both? And we'll just, do one now and do another one later. Maybe Europe in the summer and then or Toronto in the summer because it's cold up there. And then Europe maybe towards like the fall or something when it's nice autumn changing, the leaves. I don't know. I'm just giving an example there.
Right. Yeah, I think ultimately, at least for me, I'm kind of old school. It's got to be together. If my wife were to even broach the conversation of having a separate vacation on her own, it would really make me think, where is the marriage going to? Because to me, that is it's weird, man. That's like totally outside my wheelhouse, and it's not something that I'm accustomed to. I'm accustomed more to a traditional wedding or a traditional marriage.
Well, you heard what Noel says. A marriage works, or a relationship works by making compromises. Is that a compromise you're willing to make, Danny?
For her to take a separate vacation?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's a compromise at all. That's what she wants to do. So a compromise would be like, well, all right, you want to go by yourself because you want to go to Alaska and I don't want to go to Alaska. Well, let's go to Canada and it's close to Alaska, but maybe we don't get as far as she wants to go because I don't want to go to Alaska. So that's a compromise. Her wanting to go there and me going, okay, yeah, sure, you can go. That's not a compromise. That's just me giving in.
Yeah, I hear you on that.
Man.
Well, I don't know. You think that's a compromise, Andy? Just like, okay, yeah, sure, you can go.
No, I'll listen, but just because you asked doesn't mean you're gonna get. Because I wouldn't do that because I put a value on marriage, Nanny.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm with you. I wouldn't. To me, it's not cool, and I know it's very. I don't want to say trendy, but I know a lot of people who do it, a lot of married people that do it, and I guess it's what works for them, but I know it doesn't work for me.
It's like if she was like, I want to go to Alaska, you're like, all right, I'm going to go to Vegas. Let's see what happens when we get back.
And then you're opening a box. If you agree to that, then you're opening up something that it's a slippery slope, man.
I mean, I've seen enough romantic comedies to know how that story ends, man.
But overall, yeah, it's I wouldn't. I'm not open to that. So it's an interesting. I don't want to say millennials do it. I feel like a lot of people do it now, and I don't know. I think it's more prevalent now. Just people don't talk about it as much,
Yeah, I think it's something slowly creeping in and becoming something more and more common. Just like a lot of other stuff in society, becoming more common. It's things that you're just going to have to get used to. And maybe the way, I think, and it sounds like everybody else here thinks, will become a thing of the past, and new thoughts would have to come in, and new social norms will become and take place.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. We have to see how it works out. I mean, divorce rates are at an all-time high, so maybe this new idea is going to make that change. Maybe it'll build more trust between couples. That's a whole nother conversation for another time. We have reached the end, but I want to thank everybody for listening. We really appreciate all the audience and all the people that support us. If y'all can remember to follow us on Freeform Network. We're on Facebook and Twitter at Freeform Network. If you have any questions or any kind of things you want us to do, any suggestions and stuff we can improve on, that's at ffnquestions@gmail.com. We do have a webpage, freeformnetwork.podbean.com. You're going to see all the different links of how to watch us. You already know we're on Stitcher, iTunes, we're on Podbean, and we're kind of trying to spread out as well. So, but of course, we appreciate if you subscribe to us. If you hit that like button, makes us feel good, makes us feel strong, and like we're doing something right in this life. So for Freeform Radio, this is your host, Noel, and I have my other host, Daniel.
Yes, sir. Thank you for listening, guys. I appreciate it. See you next time.
And of course, we got Andy.
Never taking a solo vacation. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Alrighty, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
That was cool, Dad.